say, I was reading a book last night. Stephen Hawking?
Yeah.
Do you have ALS? Is that what it was?
I think it was. Was it?
I was reading about time travel last night.
Okay.
So, but it's not like the Hui version. It's the actual like science, math. Would it be possible?
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into it, but
Yeah.
it's a cool thing.
Yeah.
So we live in a 3-dimensional world.
Yeah.
So in math, you can model more dimensions than 3.
Yeah.
So you can run equations that are more than 3 dimensions. So like, let's say, for example, you live on this surface that's flat.
Yeah.
So you just can live here 2 dimensions.
Yeah.
Boom. But if you don't know about this 3rd dimension, then you wouldn't know any different. So your whole world is here and you can't see the 3rd dimension here.
Right.
So they're talking about the ability to travel through time if we could somehow access the 4th dimension.
So 4th dimension is time.
It is, but it isn't.
Could be.
It's not space. That's the problem. Time isn't the same as space. So it's the 4th dimension, but if you're talking just spatially, it's not a dimension. But anyways, that I'm aware of. Maybe if someone better at math than me wants to clarify that. It doesn't seem like time is the same as it is space.
Yep.
But anyhow, so if you could get into the 4th dimension, which they have models for, they're thinking that might be a way to travel through space-time. They were talking about how you can...
What book is this?
Brief Answers to the Big Questions.
Okay.
By Stephen Hawking. It's been sitting on my shelf.
It's his book. Okay.
It's his book,
I thought you were going a different direction.
No.
You said him. Okay.
No, it's his book.
Smart guy book.
It's been sitting on my shelf for a while. I got a new conditioning book that I'm going to start getting into, but that one's been bugging me that it's been sitting there for a while.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty quick read, but it's like, if you don't know math, like I don't recommend it because if you don't know...
Yeah, I get lost in
it's
that
at
stuff.
It's at the edge of my grasp, and I did a whole major in math. So...
Well, it's so funny. Remember, we've had some long talks about, you were talking about black holes.
Yeah.
And
that's another chapter, by the way.
The best that you can understand them. Because you don't totally understand them.
Right.
Okay. So I'm like, how the heck could there be so much
gravity?
So much gravity that something just disappears.
Yeah.
So remember I told you I was burning some wood in the back and I threw some paper in the fire? And then it was like, it basically disappeared. Where to go?
Where to go?
And that's what I was like, I thought of you right there. I'm like, that's like a black hole. But it's not.
Yeah, I know.
But anyways, it's I don't get that stuff.
Yeah. They did another. He does another chapter talking about black holes. So cool, so cool.
Amazing stuff we don't know.
But I always go back to this because people have a hard time with math, and people have a hard time with science concepts and concepts that you can be explained simply. To me, that makes me feel like we fully understand them. Yeah. When you get to like the edges of math, where like only the theoretical physicists can talk about it. I feel like they don't really know everything. Like they don't have a good enough grasp themselves.
You think they're still guessing a little bit?
Yeah, because you should be able to explain it simply if you understand it.
I guess.
I think
it's too complicated to me.
I know. So when they get
me like it racked my brains out to figure out what an actual light year is.
Yeah, crazy, eh? Crazy.
But it makes sense.
It does make sense,
but not at all.
Depends who you talk to about it, I guess.
Yeah, it's very interesting though.
Yeah, it is. I'm very interested in it.
Obviously, it's interesting. Like somewhat interesting I couldn't imagine someone not being somewhat interested in it.
It's all the teacher, man.
Yeah.
Whoever the teacher is, they can either sell you on it to make you like it, or they can make you feel like I don't care. Yeah. You're talking about last week selling the copiers, how you just don't care. And your boss did a poor job getting you to take an interest, and maybe you never would have, but the teacher can help a lot, So.
Oh yeah.
I got one thing I wanted to talk about to start, unless you. Mine's good. It'll get the juices flowing unless you think you have a better one. Do you have something or no?
I just got a couple things.
Okay, you go first.
Well, no, just one thing. I just wanted to say we have I'm not going to say the name, but we have a listener, a client, actually a member, who is a big part of a company called Blue Star Nutraceuticals, and sent us a bunch of stuff, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Real good, man. I like the greens a lot. Tastes good, and I actually feel some energy with it. Okay. And a couple of other things I have. So I wanted to just say thanks a lot for that, Dave.
Sweet.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's really good product. And send me a t-shirt. I'll wear it on the podcast. I really like it. And you know me, and you were kind of the same. Not a big fan of just hyping something up for no reason.
Yeah.
Really good stuff. Really good. So I enjoyed that. And then that's it.
So I had a conversation last night with one of our guys.
Yeah.
and
one of our guys
that
meaning,
comes to train workout guys. Young kid. I think he's 13. So he was telling me that for school he has to do a project, like a biography project on somebody, and he picked David Goggins as the guy to do the project on, which is cool.
Yeah.
So people that don't know David Goggins, he's a former Navy SEAL, and he's known for being pretty much the hardcore of the hardcore in terms of his lifestyle, training style, like super, if you want to say stereotypical macho guy. It's that, but it's not. But that's kind of what you would think if you listen to him talk the first time. Very motivational, inspirational, whatever. So he was basically, his story is he was kind of a loser, and his whole life story is him pulling himself out of that and just constantly battling his own mental demons to achieve some pretty impressive or get some pretty impressive accolades through the Navy SEALs, and then he does endurance racing and stuff like that now. Anyways, so we were talking about that a little bit, and then the kid was saying he's trying to start. He set a goal for himself where he wants to try to get up to go for a run every morning. So he says, so I said I set my alarm at 5:30, and I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna go for the run. And I said, oh yeah, and he didn't say how long he's been trying to do it, but he goes, yeah. So a lot of times my alarm will go off. It's 5:30. He's like, I'll get up and then I'll go pee or whatever. And then I just end up back in my bed going to sleep. Right.
Of course.
And
very common.
Very common. So, but he said, I was impressed that he pointed it out. He's like, but I got up though. He's like, I got out of my bed. And I love that. That was great. I was like, yeah, man, it's baby steps. Doesn't have to be, you're David Goggins tomorrow, where you're doing all this crazy shit. So we're talking a little bit about goal setting, and I think it's really important especially for kids, because you come across a lot of motivational stuff on the internet and from people that you like to follow, or these people that are adults that seem to be super hardcore and have all these great habits. And there's a couple things that I want to point out about that. The first is a lot of times they actually don't. They're just doing a sales job. They don't actually do the things they say, but we'll put that aside for now and assume that people that you're following actually do the things that they're saying. They didn't do it in one night. So especially for kids, you try to, and I remember doing this myself, you try to do everything right off the hop. So if you have a really bad habit, like one kid I was commenting with the other night was saying he's on his phone before he goes to bed.
Yeah.
So if you have a really bad habit of going on your phone before you go to bed.
I love his answer too.
Yeah, I know. But if you have that habit, it doesn't mean like tomorrow you have to put your phone in a box and not look at it for 2 hours before you go to sleep. And that's kind of what I was saying to the kid is, it's great that you have this goal. You want to get up at 5:30, go for a run. That's cool. But maybe there's a smarter way to do this. And a lot of people get really raw about it. Just like, no, just get up, just do it. Just that kind of Jocko willing.
Is that your best
option? But is that your
though?
best option? And so I was kind of explaining to him, well, considering the fact that you guys already don't get enough sleep at your age, you don't necessarily want to cut sleep. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, why not, let's set that at a time where you're more likely to actually do the task. So I said, instead of get up at 5:30 and go for a run, why don't you say, I'm going to do it right when I get home from school? Because now you're already awake, and instead of sitting on the couch for half an hour eating Doritos and watching whatever TV show you like, maybe you go run for 20 minutes as soon as you get home from school. That's a lot more doable.
Or at your lunch at school.
Yeah, lunch at whatever.
That's a real good productive piece of your time.
A time where you're already awake, so you don't have to fight so many things at the same time. Like, because just getting up at 5:30, which, like I said, it was nice to hear. Like, I got up, I did the 5:30 thing, I got up, cool. But now you're fighting get up. You're fighting the resistance of going to run. You're fighting the resistance of completing the run. So you're just stacking a lot of things against you with the goal that you're setting. So it's great that you're trying to set a goal, number one, but maybe there's a smarter way to do that. And that was the kind of message I wanted to start with for today, is you don't have to do everything right away. If you just do baby step things, and this is a kid that I'm going to have on a meal plan as well. And for kids that have never seen a meal plan before, it's overwhelming, man. It's a whole bunch of information, and especially being the way that I am, I put a lot of detail into it. And I tell them, like, I told the kid last night, treat the meal plan as this is David Goggins. Like, you want to be here one day, you don't have to be here tomorrow. And just start doing the things that you will do, and try to set yourself up to win instead of setting yourself up with such a difficult thing right off the hop that it's hard to make a habit. So I wanted to start off with that because I think it's important for kids as they start to, if they listen to our podcast or other sources of motivation or inspiration, and it's like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to start this whole new routine. I'm going to completely change my day. I'm going to completely change my morning, and I'm going to do all these things. It's like, how about you start with one thing and try to do it at a time where you feel like you will actually do it, So I kind of want to push that out first.
Yeah, it's huge. It's very common, right? We look at that in every field, every field, every domain, whatever it is. It's the long hanging fruit. It's taking one thing at a time and doing that well. And then, if like, it's just like kind of like working out, like people that get into fitness or they say they want to get into fitness, right? It's the old thing about January 1st, people buy memberships, they go 8 times in 2 weeks, and then it goes down to 2 and then 1, and then they don't go there for the next 9 months or 8 months. And it's because it's too much too soon. So that's what, like, we always say that to someone, and a lot of people say to me, well, you work out every day. I went for a walk. I'm like, good. It's real good, man. And they're somewhat surprised. I go, no, it's real good. You're doing something. And if you really like walking, maybe one day you're going to go from telephone pole to telephone pole and you're going to jog one to the next. And then maybe you'll do something else. But it's like minimizing something big or something small, however you look at that. Minimizing it is not really the answer. You're doing something, and you can't push a parked car. You got it in neutral. You can do something with it. So by starting something, and then maybe you find a little bit of passion for it, and then all of a sudden you're doing a little bit more than you ever thought you would, or you're doing it more importantly, you're doing it consistently, and then all of a sudden a lot of things go well. You just maybe feel better. You start looking at your diet, but when you start trying to do everything at once, then you're 3 days in and you're thinking you're doing great, and then the Thursday, let's say, comes and you're just like, your mind goes, I want brownies and everything else, and then you just cave right in, and then you do then your mind, you feel shame, right? 2 minutes in the box and feel shame, and then because a lot of people aren't strong enough to say, okay, it was just a blip, or realize where they fell short. It's like that's what's going to happen if you go all in. Your body wants what it used to have, right? So it's a big crash, but you didn't fail. So like, and I'm not going to go into the podcast yet, but it's like what we've been doing in our series the last little bit. We give a lot of, okay, to be a better winger, be a better center, be a better D. We give like 8, 10, 12 different pointers. Well, don't do all 10.
Exactly.
Because then you're going to be lost, dude. You're going to be absolutely lost. But take the 1 or 2 things that you can do or know you can focus on, and do that well for 3, 4, 5 games, and add something to it, or add something else into your practice. So it'll be like, just like working out. Progressively, you get smarter, you get better, and you'll see bigger improvements. But you eat an elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah.
Right. I know it's funny,
but I like what you said there. The people minimize things that seem small, but they're not small. And there's I don't know how to explain this. There's a kind of like that's it attitude when people start doing something. For example, okay, your workout today. So let's say I'm your trainer and you've never worked out ever. I say, okay, first thing you're going to do 10 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, 10 squats, and you're going to go walk for 20 minutes. A lot of people have the attitude of like, that's it. Like, that's all I'm going to do. Like, I'm paying you to be my trainer, and like, I'm expecting to be in a puddle after. And the sustainability thing is just, people don't think of that. If I make you so sore that you hate your life for the next 10 days, or if you're someone who really doesn't like to do weightlifting, but there's 2 exercises that you really like to do, then just do those 2. Just do the things that you like. Make it something that you want to do. But people, a lot of times, it'll be something small. Like, even with the kids that start working out here, especially the boys, they're eager. They're very eager to put the weight on the bar, to do more reps, to do more work, to be more tired, to go faster. And a lot of that's not necessarily their fault, because I find in hockey particularly, coaching is very like everything's hard, everything fast, and there's not the equal and opposite. Yeah, but you need to go slow and figure out how to do this first. And when I do that, I can feel the resistance from the kids that start like, this is all I'm doing. I'm only doing 5 reps. I'm only doing, and it's like, yeah, but this is the foundation so that it becomes a sustainable practice. If I bring you in and bury you, not only could you get hurt, but you might not like it now. I might turn you off to it, you know?
Yeah. Well, then that's that start again. Okay, I'm going to do it. You get motivated. And
Yeah.
it's like life is not a movie and life is not social media.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not, man.
It's not a movie.
So when
dude.
you watch Rocky, life isn't Rocky.
Yeah.
It's not Rocky, you know? So when people go in to start something, like our job as well, when someone goes to train with you, let's say, or on the ice, I don't start them with the hardest, most complicated stick handling drill combined with a crossover shot, right? That's not what we start with. We start with basics.
Yeah.
And we do it so that they like me and I like them. And we can see where we're at. And that's what you're doing with fitness. And you want to be able to come back. So you won't like it and you will probably quit. No, I shouldn't say nobody. A small breed of people like to be in a puddle after they're working out. Like to actually work out as hard as an NHL hockey player actually works out. That takes time, and it takes a tolerance to get to that level where you might be out of breath and still keep going because maybe you understand it.
Yeah, and maybe just something for the parents, because I think exercise and we'll call it exercise is starting to be, in the last like 20 years, has started to become a much more mainstream thing. But really, it was Arnold Schwarzenegger doing pumping iron that turned strength training into a thing. Like everyone has always thought, yeah, cardio is good for you, whatever. But it's a pretty new thing to have that integrated into your lifestyle between strength training and the cardio, both parts, right? There's a lot of resistance with parents about changing their routines, and it's because they're adults, and a lot of it is ego too, where people, they know that they should be doing something different that they're not doing. But my point for the parents is that you will get 80% of the benefit of exercise lifestyle changes by just doing basic things. It's not by being elite. It's not by being in the best shape ever compared to anyone you know. It's not being a performance that's not what it is. If you just do basic things that honestly aren't that difficult, outside of creating the new habit, like it's not you have to throw up, or you're so tired that you're sore for 5 days, or that you're pushing the heaviest possible weight all the time. That's the extra 20%. But the first 80 is just like lifting some weights 3 times a week at a moderate intensity that you can completely handle and isn't crazy, or doing zone 2 cardio, which is you can still basically hold a conversation while you're moving.
Yeah.
And those things are,
people minimize that.
People
minimize
that
hard.
And that's like the walking point you made earlier, right? It's like you go for a walk and you walk with some pace and you're a little out of breath. That's great. That's so good for you. And then I find, especially with parents, they'll get into the like, that's it attitude. Like they need, well, shouldn't I be doing more? Shouldn't I be doing? It's like, you could do more, but if you won't do more, then no, don't do it, because you're not going to do it. So stick to things that are, like we say all the time, the low-hanging fruit stuff. You know, you do things that you will actually do, and it doesn't have to be a lot. If you lift weights, if you have 3 hours a week to do stuff, do an hour where you lift some weights, and then do a session of zone 2 stuff, and then you can do a session of some interval stuff if you feel like it. And you can break those up through the week. It could take you 20 minutes each workout. It could take you half an hour. It could take you an hour. And not only does that go a long way for you and just your lifestyle and your health in terms of longevity and health span, but also just for your kids to see as an example, right? Just for your kids to see as an example. You're actually doing something. You have a good lifestyle. You have a good routine, and it's a good example to set for your kids and all that.
Yeah, kids are watching.
Yeah, so you don't have to jump into like a crazy. Just do the thing you'll actually do, is my point. Do something that you'll actually do or that you enjoy. And with all the fads that you're pointing out, whichever thing you like, like that's
not wrong.
That's the only thing about fads that's good, is it'll get some people into it that otherwise wouldn't have been. And if you find something that works for you, then that's great. Stick to it. Do the thing you'll actually do. And don't just check the ego, man. You don't need to have this, that's not enough, or I should be doing more, or whatever. Just do the thing that you'll actually do.
Well, and then for people that are my age, in around my age, I mean, I'm being honest. Like if someone was to start at 45 or 50, around my age, it's like the results are not like extreme results. You have to work really
Yeah, it
hard,
would take
diet and all
extreme
that kind of stuff.
commitment.
So,
Yeah.
like even for my mindset, like I have goals when it comes to that area of my life. It's like, well, the discipline that would to go into something like that,
Yeah, you have to be
that's
willing
a
to do
little
the work.
much.
Yeah, you
Right.
have to be
That's a
willing to
little
do the work,
much.
man.
So
Yeah.
it's like, at 54, it's like to be like to look like I'm still slapped together. Right.
Mhm.
And I'd like to be able to function in life. Like when I go on the ice, that's important to me that I can still move quite a bit. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah. Anyway.
So I just want to touch on that with goal setting thing because I think it's important, especially for the young guys too.
Yeah.
Whether you're the adults or you're the young kids, if you're an adult and you're new to the fitness thing, those are some good tips. And if you're a kid trying to get new practice habits or eating habits or whatever, it's just like baby steps, man. Doesn't
Yeah.
have to be everything all at once. So, anyways, thought that'd be a good, cool thing to start with. So just quick for the people online, memberships are live if you guys want to join on that. The store, I'm gonna open it next week to everybody, so you'll have a few more days if you're a member to shoot me a message like on the website or through the contact page that you have there. And you guys, I got some discounts and stuff for you guys to get an advanced order on that, so that's gonna be pretty sweet. And it actually does ship everywhere, with obviously some exceptions over the ocean, but for I think most of Europe it'll work. Australia works, US works. So wherever you guys are listening from, it should be able to get to you if you make orders. And then like and share the podcast. Instagram stories really help too. Actually, that's a new thing. So if you share some of the clips on Instagram, that's actually been a big driver, which is cool. And I think the Apple Podcast thing has been sorted out, so everything should be good there. Obviously, this episode again, we're gonna do our last position for centerman. There's video that obviously makes things easier to understand when you can see it. On Spotify, they stream the video. On Apple Podcast, I'm trying to figure out why they don't, or they haven't been. And then on YouTube, obviously, you can see the video as well for the visual. So if you guys want to go there, check that out, do that, because you'll have a better idea of what we're talking about because we use the board. So with that, do you have anything else you'd like to say before we start on Centerman?
No, just what, we've been meeting so many nice people out there, like just out in the arenas and people seeing us, and I appreciate every time you guys say hi.
Mm.
It's some just wonderful people. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's
Very
awesome.
cool. Okay, so let's do this. Let's
Yeah.
talk Centerman.
Yeah, well, it's funny thing is it's a sexy job if you're really good at it.
Right.
It's a great job. So like before I go into what benefits or how I can be a better center iceman, just a longer version of saying centerman.
The center
Center
iceman.
iceman. I like when people say that. It sounds like
Center
you're
iceman.
so smart. It seems like the position to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a lot of stars play center, and I saw something, I don't know where they do a diagram of players and they say center, who's your centerman is your best player. It's like a joke thing. Your
Yeah.
tallest player is on D, blah 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 blah. But your best player is a centerman. And it's like kind of true, kind of true. But what they look at when they say that, it's about the most skilled guy, right?
Yeah.
So, and typically when kids start playing hockey, that seems to be the position of choice. Like I want to be the centerman to take the faceoffs, be the star. Why do they choose center? Well, because you're probably around the puck more and they see the goal scoring and the offensive side of the game, right? Being a centerman though is it's a very responsible, like when you take it seriously. Okay, to be a good centerman, the actual job of a centerman is a very responsible position where you've got to be very, very good at all three zones. And if you're intelligent, that really helps as well, because you got to think the game a lot. And to be a very good elite centerman, your skill level, your skating, like you should be the total package of a hockey player. And that's not to say that a defenseman is not as good as a centerman, or a winger it can't be the total package either. But it's like for a centerman, you've got to be able to put everything together, and you really have to take your defensive responsibilities to heart if you want to be a good centerman. And here's a funny thing, okay? Success leaves clues. And what I mean by that is, because I know there's going to be some people that say, oh yeah, well, because when I talk about your D zone and playing away from the puck, what about Connor McDavid? What about those? And again, I wanted to talk about that. Like those are the extreme guys. So I'm going to say something to you. If you are that guy, that you are so good that you don't have to come back to your own zone or be that good of a defensive player, as I'm going to show you, you will know by the time you're 7 or 8 years old because there'll be articles written about you. You'll stick out like a sore thumb. You're gonna just be that good, and those guys don't happen very often. So I would say success leaves clues, and if you can listen to this, you'll hear a lot of people talking when they at NHL levels that they have to be better in their D zone to be a center, better at D. The other thing is, a lot of times in junior, a kid will come out through, or junior in college, a kid will come through and play minor hockey the whole time at center, but then when they get to junior or college, they're moved to the wing. Well, why is that? Right? And typically the responsibility, the weight that is put on your shoulders to do the job at high levels, I'm not talking Adam and Pee Wee, at high levels, there's a much greater responsibility to be, there's just more on your shoulders. You got to be more defensively. You got to have some offensive gifts, face-offs, and all that kind of stuff. Figure out the game. So that's the success leaves clues. So what I mean by that is, if you listen to, everyone wants to play in the NHL, college, whatever, right? So if you want to get there, if the message to the guys going in, or the guys that were stars at one time, are going into the NHL or colleges and juniors, and they're saying, and you're seeing those guys get put to the wing, or you see those guys not making the NHL right away, or not getting the ice because they haven't tightened up their D zone or their play away from the puck, success leaves clues. If you want a success, you should figure that out right now. So that is something that should be in your head, saying I have to be better defensively and away from the puck.
Yeah.
And then obviously your offense, if you're a gifted offensive player, you can do what you need to do.
Yeah, I want to just hammer that again, because we said it last week and I think the week before, is don't use exceptions as your rule.
Yeah.
So show me the video that Connor McDavid didn't back check hard, or that whatever guy you want to pick wasn't great in his D zone. First of all, that's one shift. That's so whatever. But even if it's a consistent habit, it's like, you want to give yourself the best chance of making it at the position. So it's just better for you to be good at D zone and being better away from the puck. Even if you are McDavid, even if you are that good.
Well, look how his career has changed. And now it could be that he's hitting his peak of his peak, but he's also much better coming back to his own end. You just saw one back checking the other day where he is in the right position, or he came back hard, stole a puck, and went back up the ice. You showed me that clip. I said, that's awesome.
Of course.
And that's 100%.
Yeah. So
Tighten that up, he's a better player.
So I'm going to keep, anytime that comes up, I'm going to keep hammering that. Don't use exceptions as the rule, man.
Yeah.
Because maybe you're the exception. It's possible. But it's more likely that you're not the exception. So you want to make sure you have all this other stuff in a line to give yourself the best chance, right?
Yeah. So just to sum that up a little bit, it's a centerman, aside from the glory when you start off, you're actually an offensive threat, but you are also the third D in your zone.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be working hard in your own zone. You're like a defenseman. So, when I grew up, no one told me that. I was a centerman. No one told me that. But that's what your job is. I mean, I kind of did it because I was a hard back checker and stuff, but like, I didn't understand that I had to be like a defenseman in my own zone and a offensive threat in the other zone. You should be good in your own zone. You should kind of be a good skater, or you should be a great skater. You should be a great passer, because you're distributing the pucks. That's a very good quality, that like a Joe Thornton, distributing pucks real well to other guys, setting up plays, having that playmaker mind, having that brain, seeing the plays evolve. And you want to make sure that you get back to your own zone to help. So that's what you want to be as a centerman. So anyways, you want anything to add to that?
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to add is along the lines of the skating thing, because that's probably the position that does the most skating, because you're deep in your D zone, deep in the O zone, both sides of the ice. So you have the most distance to cover and you have the most work to do on all sides of the puck. So just one thing to keep in mind is that it's a very high level of conditioning at the elite levels that is required to be able to manage that amount of skating. So the reason why I wanted to do a separate, we didn't just do a forwards episode, is because there's particular things about playing that position that are different and worth talking about. So make sure, with the qualities you pointed out, the thing I would add to that is just it's a lot of skating, man. So at the end of the day, you could be really good at all the things you're talking about. If you're tired, you won't be good at any of them anymore. So you need to make sure you have enough gas in the tank to handle the level of skating. Otherwise, your brain's going to shut off just because you're too tired. So even if you have the skill to do the job, if you don't have the tank to last the whole shift or to last the amount of time that's necessary to do the job, then you're not going to be any good at it. So that's the only thing I'll add on top of that.
Well, I was going to mention Chris later, but I'm going to mention it now. So because you said conditioning, so my good friend Chris Draper, who did a podcast with us, and I've done a lot of work with Chris. And remember, I asked him. I said, "What?" He was a gifted offensive player. So this is like a really close to home example for me because we sat down closer than you and I were. We had a conversation about, we're eating some raw, like some sushi. Yes, raw tuna and avocado. He said, try this stuff. It's good. So we're eating that stuff, had a steak and stuff, and we're just talking. And I asked him that question about what made you the grind line, the defensive specialist, Selke Trophy winner. And he said it was very simple. World Juniors, he realized he was given the task to shut down, I think it was Jagger and someone else. And he not realized for the first time, like it was an epiphany or anything, but he realized, like, I get on the ice. There's stars on this team. I get on the ice. My job's to shut them down, right? So he took that like, okay, maybe this is a thing, a real thing. His conditioning is off the charts. Like to this day, he does like a lot of kettlebell workouts and stuff, and he looks great, man. He looks like he's in great shape. So his conditioning was off the charts, and his defensive responsibility on the grind line he played on the Olympic team, 3 Stanley Cups, and he's in the Detroit organization still. It's allowed him to have a career that's would have went way beyond what he would have if he just would have been an average guy trying to score goals and maybe up and down in the minors. Give him, I think, a 16-year career, something like that, and lots of money. So that's why it's so close to home for me. Not why, but it's one of the reasons. Like I remember that conversation. We're sitting in Detroit, we're just talking, and it was like, yeah, this is like live in front of your face. Who wants to argue with this?
Well,
right?
man,
because people will.
And this just goes to...
Yeah, go. No, you go.
Well, I was just going to say, it goes to the point we talked about before, is like, it's not just the superstars, man. Like, the league is not just superstars,
Yeah.
It's actually a majority not superstars.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of jobs to be had being good at something else that's not just scoring goals. And for him, good for him identifying that, saying, wow, instead of having to score 40, and if I don't, I'm out of the league.
That's right.
Instead, I can just try to make someone else not score 40.
Yeah.
And that's a lot easier to do than being the guy that has to put 40 up or whatever, right? So it's back to that point.
Yeah. So what I want to start out with a Centerman is like, okay, so playing without the puck. Okay, I want to just start with that theme. And what I would say is, like, in all zones, you have to be able to support the puck, support loose pucks, being able to do a checking roll. All right. So and if you are supporting pucks, you're an easy pass option at all times. And then you're always in a defensive zone, or mostly in a defensive position, offensively, neutral zone, and defensively. And then understand that if you're good defensively in good positions, then your offense will create from that.
Yeah. So good defense leads to good offense. You've said that before.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, again, that you just said was, you get yourself in, was it in passing lanes? Is that what you said? You put yourself in good positions to receive passes.
Well, you put yourself in good positions to defend, and then you put yourself in a better passing position because you're probably 10 feet. It's easier to make a 10-foot pass
by supporting the puck
than try to stretch a pass out 40 to 60 feet.
So this
taking off out of the zone takes a little bit of patience.
Yeah. So the puck support thing is important because we talked about this a little bit with defensemen in the last episode, how you want to close the gaps that you need to move the puck. And as a centerman, if you're in a good supporting position, it should seem like you're always right there if someone needs to dump a puck off to you. So you're, especially because you, as a centerman, a lot of times have the freedom to go wherever you want. D zone particularly, but offensive zone, you're normally starting in the middle of the ice. So you're the closest option either side. So you should always try to position yourself where someone can dump a puck in an area for you, or get the puck to you over a short distance where they're not isolated by themselves. So that's what that means, that supporting the puck thing. I think that's really important as a centerman too, for sure.
It's really important. It's critical. And I want to show different areas where in transitions and passing where the puck support is critical. But I just want to see, do you want to go with like your D zone first, or do you want me to just
we normally go, the last two we've done D zone, neutral zone, O zone. So you want to stick with that? So you want to start from a face off, or do you want to just talk about D zone coverage first?
Yeah,
or what do you think?
I was going to end with face offs, but that's fine. You mentioned the game starts with a face off. Pretty much every time a centerman's on the ice, not every time, but plenty of the times he's on face offs.
So you want to start D zone face off? Or just
no, I just want to say face offs in general, because same shit, different pile.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. In a face off, obviously as a centerman, that's a really good thing to do. Not yet. It's a really good thing to learn is how to win a face-off. So, I mean, that's like me saying goalie should just stop the puck. I mean, that's not even the smartest thing to say, but it's also not the dumbest, right? If you're taking face-offs, the objective is to win, unless the objective is to lose on purpose, from direction from the coach. So, in every face-off, you're trying to win. If you don't win, what's the next step you want to do? If you don't win, you try not to lose. So there's a difference, right? Winning it clean is winning. Winning not to lose is a 50-50 battle, and that's almost a win if you do things right. Okay, and going back to what I said about Chris Draper is like he just realized that if I'm really good on face-offs, I get to go on the ice. And again, success leaves clues. When games are important. We talked about this on one of our podcasts, how the Leafs had to put Spets out for certain sides because they didn't have someone to win face-offs at that side of the ice. Success leaves clues. If you want to have more ice, win lots of face-offs. When the game comes down to, important times of the game, D zone, offensive zone, or whatever, if I can rely on you to not lose 90% or 80% of your face-offs, then that gives us a chance to actually execute something.
Yeah.
Right?
Can I throw a couple on that?
100%.
So the face-off, I'm going to go back to, we had a conversation with a guy, I mentioned this a couple of months ago now, that plays junior, and we were talking, and he was fighting for ice, like in and out of the lineup.
Yeah.
And so the one day, the coach of that junior team actually called me and was saying, man, these guys are brutal on face-offs. Like, we can't win a face-off. So we worked with them at the end of one of their skill sessions. I took the centerman, and I worked with them for a little bit. And before that, I talked to them about it and just said, people, especially at the younger ages, until you play pro, because even in junior, I remember, like, some of the older guys cared a little bit more, but most guys don't really care about face-offs. They don't think about how important that is to start with the puck. And just by going into a face-off and caring to win is like 50% of the fight. Then you can get into strategies about how to win and how to read guys and whatever. But just by giving a shit about winning the face-off, a lot of times you'll win the face-off just because other guys aren't ready to battle.
Because you're laser focused.
Yeah, you know, so you get yourself nice and low so that you're strong, and then you battle, and then you can start to read. If a guy keeps beating you, what is he doing to beat me? You can start asking questions to defend the way that they're winning the face-off. Anyways, it's all the game within the game stuff. But so after the session, I talked to this kid, and he was saying to me, because I was asking him how things were going, and he's like, yeah, I'm realizing that I won't take the role of our top players away from them. Like, they are going to be our top players. And it ended up working out perfect that I started talking to him about face-offs. I was like, man, you don't have to be them. You don't have to outcompete them. Be good at the things they're not good at, because then when those situations happen in the game, they have to go to you because you're the best at it. So that was face-offs, that was shot blocks, that was good back checks, that was being defensively responsible. But in the context of face-offs, his next game, he was like 65-70% on face-offs. And the coach is like, oh yeah, he did way better on face-offs. And he has taken pride in those little things. I don't know if he's missed any games since then. I don't think he has. But not only has that happened, now he's starting to get offense. He's been scoring. He had a hat trick one of the games. He's been not 100% consistently points, but way more than he was. And that started by him taking pride in his defensive play as a centerman, beginning with face-offs. So now there's a D-zone draw on the right side. He has to go because he's the best one. Or there's a penalty kill. We need to win our face-offs, especially on a penalty kill. He's going out. So you're earning extra ice time because you're good at little things, you know? So that was a really good story that exactly speaks to what you're talking to. It seems like obvious, be good on face-offs, win face-offs, but people don't think about it. They don't think about, hey, take pride in this part of the game, because it actually will matter later And when you're young playing youth hockey, it doesn't seem like it matters, but it actually does.
Well, it's like I say, the soft skills of, being able to catch bad passes. It's like, well,
Yeah, exactly.
people don't think that's a thing, but it's a thing because most of your passes are not going to be right on the tape perfect for you to shoot. They're going to be in your feet, a little bit away from you. So it's like, it's the obvious, right? You work on things that actually happen, not the perfect situations. So again, earning what happens if you win faceoff, you earn the coach's trust. And now some people will say, because I know how people react, so they use those extremes, but I would say that any coach that is paying any attention at all sees a player that wins his face-offs over and over, you earn that trust at the youngest levels. Because at some point in a tournament, a playoff series, a game that you want to win with the last minute of a play, a defensive zone thing, a goalie, empty net, whatever, you need to win a face-off. And if you're that guy that can do that, there's just extra ice for you. And that's an important role. And like you said, the great comparison is what you used with the one guy that you were working with, and I know who I remember this, is it's another form of confidence. I can do this. And when you do something well, it helps you get to the next level, or something else goes well. So that's it's one bite of the elephant, but if you take that bite and you do it well, then you're probably going to have other chances in situations. And by default, it just might be you win a draw, it's an assist or whatever, right?
That's the snowball, man.
So yeah, and so work on face-offs. Spend time working on face-offs. Like there's different rules now. We used to be able to be very physical on face-offs, like hammering guys and taking sticks away and stuff. Now you have to go straight for the puck. So work those quick hands, getting low, getting in that squat, and working backhand, forehand, forward, side, lateral.
You have to go straight for the puck? Like you can't, can you still do like the dig your ass into the guy and like?
Well, yeah, but you have to go puck first.
Really?
You
can't just go straight through the guy.
No, and you can't, unless I'm wrong. I know this. I'm positive of this.
Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes I have dreams,
Yeah.
but no, I'm positive of this. Because no one just takes sticks anymore, right?
Right.
Like I was actually kind of very good at blocking and getting under sticks. Now you have to go straight puck.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then
Cool.
because now it's a slashing penalty.
Yeah.
And but anyway, work on the quick hands and work on scooping that puck like hundreds and hundreds, and you get really good at it. Work on the speed of it and stuff. But after your face off, the next thing that you do is you always assume that you're going to lose. Don't assume you're going to lose. Always act as if you might lose, unless told otherwise by your coach, because maybe you want the centerman to come through.
Yeah.
Win or lose, get your stick in the guy and make sure you got him for 1-2, and make sure you sort your defensive zone or offensive zone out. Make sure you have possession before you let your guy go.
Yep.
And then if you do that, you're in a good position. If you lose a draw, take your guy right off the bat. It's the easiest thing you could do.
Yep.
It's a habit, easiest thing to do, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not the easiest thing to remember.
Yep, for sure.
So, anyways,
Okay.
that's that.
Want to go to D zone, or
Sure.
what do you think?
Yeah. So first of all, remember what I said about forwards and I said about D? There's basically quadrants of the ice that you're going to be responsible for mostly. Okay. So centerman has a little bit more, but simplify this, right? Because we think of D zone, we think of this big area of ice, and the centerman is kind of responsible for it all. But then again, not really. So remember we talked about the winger has this area, the dots out, right? So this half of the ice hash marks to dots or to the wall. And that's really, when you think about that, that's not that much space. But to do it effectively, you have to have, number one, patience, because you can get antsy to go get a loose puck where you're out of position. And then it also takes hard work because it's the 10-foot, 20-foot skating. Stops and starts, and it's hard. If you do it really hard, then you're effective. Remember we said a defenseman, for the most part, has from the dots down to the corners and a little bit going to the other side. It doesn't matter, but that's basically, so you break that down. It's just really good hard work. And again, it's not that much skating necessarily. So when you break it down like that, it seems a little bit more simpler, doesn't it? So now if I'm taking myself as a centerman, where would my quadrant be? And I don't know if it's a quadrant, it might be a fifthant.
Yeah.
So let's just say, then let me just go back now. And then when we're defending, what did we say from a defenseman, from a forward, and of course, centerman is a forward? What are we always trying to protect?
The house.
Some people call it a house, a home plate, whatever. So let's just call it that. Maybe a little bit higher out. I don't even know where the frick it is, but let's say it's in this area to the post, right? Maybe a little higher out. That is what you have to protect. So if you're protecting that, so it's a fairly small area, and then we're trying to push out. That's number one. Okay. So a centerman is going to be responsible for that and out. So here we go. When we back check, we're either taking somebody, we're coming back hard, and if we get ourselves, we're not sure to get ourselves to the middle ice, we're good. We're good because, like, say the puck goes down here, we're good. Now, our real true responsibility, because we know we're going to have a winger here, right? And we know that if there's a puck down here, we're going to have most likely a D here. Now, that's not to say that you might not be the first one back, but let's just say real simple hockey here. Don't want to confuse anybody. And then you're going to have probably another D in front of the net. So you're in good space right now. Okay. So this is our quadrant here, from basically the corners to the. I'm making a mess. Basically from the corner, so it's kind of like almost like a triangle, not a perfect triangle, more like a parallelogram or isosceles. Yeah. Right, but this is isosceles. In around here, not to exact science, but in around, this is what you need to take care of. As I said earlier, you're like a third D. So if we can understand that this area here is hard work area, and you're going to get out here every now and then, but this is the responsibility. Now think about it. You got to, if the puck's on this side, let me clean it up. If the puck is on this side, this is the puck. We know that based on what we talked about before, we're going to have the winger here to cut off all this area. We're probably going to have a D here. So we can see we're already plugging that up. We don't have to run around necessarily. Okay. So that's, and real simple, if the puck goes to this side, you're hard on this side. This is what you're responsible for in a nutshell. So let's just say in a defensive structure, you got even this guy, maybe he's a little bit out of position, even the winger. Okay. Let's just say simply a defenseman is on forward here and there's a puck battle. Okay. So if there's nothing going on, let's say you're in a position to be on the defensive side of a puck. So you're looking at where their F2 would be. So let's say he's down here waiting for a pass, or he's going to jump in. So basically, as a centerman, you're going from here, getting in a position here, let's say. This is the center iceman. I'm going to make that a little bit neater. This is the centerman. So if you can see on this board here, he's not too tight, so that if there's a loose puck that goes this way, that he's on the wrong side of the puck, right? He's kind of, this is where the patience comes in. The defensive forward is looking at. He's getting in a position where that if that puck squirts loose, he can just pounce on him, right?
Yep. Okay. Let me just tighten this up a little bit. So you're if we were to say a quadrant or whatever, it's that triangle hat thing that you're talking about. So as a centerman, that's basically your area. Obviously, none of the quadrants we're pointing out are the set in stone electric fence that you can't cross, but that's your base. So as a centerman, when you say you want to be on the defensive side of the puck now, that means you're staying between not only the puck and the net, because the puck is with two other guys, one of yours, one of theirs, but between their free guy and your net also. So the D side of the puck, normally people are talking about between the puck and your net, but you also have to consider where that free guy is. So if their free guy that you have on the board there, if he starts to sneak behind you a little bit, then you need to make an adjustment where you're still between him and the net so that he can't make a quick play if the puck happens to drop to him or whatever. So that's your position to start. So now if that guy goes to engage in that battle, that's when you're going to go in to also engage with that battle.
Right.
You're not going before he goes.
Right. So the rule of thumb is like if you don't like it, it'd just be like you don't jump or take off out of your zone until you have possession, right? Or else you're cheating the game. But a lot of things could happen. So it's the same thing here. and a coach can tell you differently, but this is the basics, right? Is if it's a one-on-one battle here, you want to be close enough to the battle so that if there's a loose puck, that's that 10-foot, 15-foot rule, right? That you can pounce on a loose puck and go or get it up to your winger. But it's also close enough that if it's a lost battle, you can defend. Does that make sense? So yeah, so now if this guy is up here,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if that other
yeah.
guy is
So
floating
let's
around,
say
now what?
F2 is here, they're forward F2, right? We're not going to play him up here. The winger's got this, right? We know that the winger, and I don't want my winger to come down here, right? That's why I want you to be patient here. You just take care of your quadrant. I'll take the defensive side, so I'm not here. Because if I lose that, like if I'm on the inside of him near close to the wall, if that puck squirts loose, he's at the net. Yeah, I might have a D here, but that's not a good position to be in, right? So we want to be on the defensive side. So if the guy's up here, we want to be on the defensive side, close enough so that we can get a loose paddle, and far enough or enough in the inside so that if he jumps, we can take him. Okay, so it's that simple. It's that simple. There'll be a D here. Now, if there happens to be a hard rim or something like that, or the puck transitions, right? What will happen? Will be I'm just keeping it real ABC here. Here's your centerman. All that happens is this guy goes and gets a puck, right? This guy's probably going to the front of the net, should be. And centerman's going hard to your defensive position on this side.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Yes. So, well, just one thing maybe to talk about. How do you feel about the centerman going behind the net versus in front of the net? I know some people get particular about that, but what do you think about that situation?
If I was to choose, I'd say cut in front of the net.
Yeah.
Because now you can get in a game of chase. You'd rather protect the house. This is not the house anymore. Right.
Yeah, always go through the house instead of around it.
Yeah. And there's times where, yes, if you've got him here and you're the first guy and you're on him and he's skating, you don't go like this and let him stop, right? So you're sealing him off the best you can. Yep. So does that make sense? Now this is where a centerman has to have a brain. Like everybody has to have a brain, but like for example, because you got to be the most responsible one. So let's say the puck goes down to this corner and there's play in this area, right? There's 2-3 guys, or let's say couple guys, and this winger just sees a loose puck, sort of, kind of, and he goes down and gets caught, right? And this is where a lot of breakdowns happen. You have to be smart enough to just take his spot, right, and be defensively sound, and that's just what you call a switch. And then there's other times where now, and just to be really clear, there's many times in your own zone you might be the first guy on the puck. It's just like in the offensive zone. You're not always F1, F2, F3 because, right, if you're the first one back, then you are actually like a D. So that's what you're doing, and then you make a switch after. Does that make sense?
For sure. So just one thing I want to mention is just because a lot of this stuff, it's easy on paper, right, when it's a nice situation, but the problems happen when the edge cases occur. So it's like if the puck starts rolling up the wall and the winger comes down when maybe he shouldn't have, or maybe he made a read, maybe he should have, maybe he could get the puck and make a play to get it out. That's where breakdowns happen in situations like that. Or like if the puck's behind the net and the D don't know which D should go. So like the edge cases on the borders of those quadrants, that's where things can break down. When it's easy, exactly where everyone needs to be, it's easy. So as the centerman, a lot of times because you have the freedom to go wherever you want and you can see everything, because in an ideal situation, you're more the supporting guy, not the primary guy that's battling, whether it's in the corner or whatever. Like you said, there's exceptions where you'll be first, but generally speaking, because you can see the ice, or you should be able to see the ice, you have to be the one that's taking control of whatever side of the ice you're on. So if the winger's in a wall battle and you're the next guy, you should be surveying the land to see like what's going on around. If the D's stuck in a battle in the corner, you're looking around to see what's going on, and then you have to be the one that's making the decision to either cover a guy or not, or communicating with your guys or whatever.
Yeah, you're almost a quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, on the D zone. So what I wanted to point out now is that the beautiful thing is that let's say there is this battle in this area, and you have your good patience and you're covering properly, right, in that second layer, and you've got the defensive side of the puck. What happens now is if there's a loose puck that comes out, you're there. You're on the defensive side. Or let's say your D does get a pass, or it does come out with it, you're an easy outlet to him, a couple feet. Or if the D, like this, a loose puck and it goes D to D, you're low enough to come across to be a nice outlet pass, right? What you don't want to be is you think, uh, whatever, there's say the battle's going on in this area, right? And you're like up here, and you think there's a loose puck, and you start taking off. That's almost impossible to make. There's a high risk, so you're going to get a lot more pucks. So this goes to the thing what I was saying last week when we did the forwards. It's like the kid was saying, like, how do I? It just seems like I can't get around the puck enough. And what happens is like people get impatient and start creeping out, and they get away from where they're supposed to be to get the easy battles or to easy outlet pass. Nothing fancy, right? So having the patience to stay in the right spot and battle at the right time, and to be on the defensive side of the puck, and so that when those loose pucks come, away you can go.
Yeah, maybe
Okay?
do you want to? Are you good with D zone coverage? Because maybe we could take that to transition into a little bit about breakouts. Like I want you to talk about guys getting in, not in good passing lanes, which you mentioned
That
before.
was actually my next.
Is that
step.
your next thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's your D zone, more or less. All right. So you're the quarterback. If that's what you want to be really good at, and like exactly what you said, is you don't want to necessarily like the stuff that happens during a game that you're gonna have a switch. A guy goes behind the net. A D goes, like the mistakes that are made or drop passes, different things that could happen. That's experience.
Yeah.
You're going to learn as you go. But if you do the basics, you're going to be in fairly good shape,
Yep.
right? And then here's the bottom line with all players. Like, I don't give a rip who you are. If there's a shit show, cluster, whatever going on, and you're just going, what the hell do I do? Well, go back to your
house, baby.
Go back to the house.
Yep.
Right? Instead of running around like crazy, just here we go. Here, 5 of diamonds. If you just don't know what to do, always just come back to here and then push out.
Yep.
It's better than going out here and trying to chase back to the net.
For sure.
Okay?
Yeah, that's great.
So breakouts, but this is going to be the same for all transitions.
Yep.
It's because it's like you can break this down till the cows come home, right? I don't know. So let's just say you're coming back to your zone and there's a transition or a breakout, right? Mm-hmm. By being low enough, let's say a D is coming this way. If you come low enough, it's a short area pass.
Yep.
Okay. If it's a set breakout, or right, I hope everybody knows what I mean. The set breakout, or let's say for people that don't understand terms, your team has total possession and they're setting up, or
everyone's in their spot.
Everybody's kind of in their spot, and there's time, right? So let's say there's a D picking up a puck and he's looking, and you see everyone kind of, that's the wrong way. There's a D, right? And there's a winger, and we're going to break out. So now the centerman, what you want to do is support the puck. Okay. If he's wheeling, let's say, or if he's making a D to D pass, whatever, what most people tend to do, little kids and people that get impatient, and this is actually something that you have to learn. So if the D's cutting like this, like he should, what a lot of centermen will do is they'll come in like this. They cut a short angle and too high. Okay. So what happens is, if common sense is your ass is to the puck. So it's really hard to get that pass. And number two, your distance is a little bit far away from the, it just could be a lot easier. So what you always, mostly, I'm not going to say always, what you want to read is when you're breaking. So let's say we're coming out this side. What you want to do is, as you're coming back, is take a different angle. You don't want to come straight on when you have possession. What you want to do is you want to take an angle. So what this angle does is it gets you deeper in your zone. So I like to say, basically come through your crease if you can, or close as you can on a good angle, so that when this guy comes out, like let's say it went D to D, okay, and you're coming out, you're at a nice low angle, so like you can come across and you're given a good target the whole time, right, without your ass to the play, and he can see that option a little bit better. And then if it's not a great option, you're in a good position to kick out wide, so when he comes up the ice, you're still a nice little pass option. So what happens too many times is that D just simply go, or forwards just simply go on bad angles, right? And they end up the ice and they can't figure out why isn't he not passing me the puck? Well, one of the reasons he might not be passing the puck is because, in innocence, the D, we're talking little kids here right now, kids go, I can't because I can't see your stick. I can't see your eyes. It's like I see your ass and your heels and your elbows. I don't see anything that I can pass to. And the other thing is, it's a very difficult pass to make a pass with a guy moving off the ice from behind or like on a bad angle. This is a really hard pass. The second thing is a good chance you got to look back and you might get killed, right? But it's just a really tough pass to make. And when you stretch yourself away from your D too much, there's a lot of bad things that could happen in that distance, right? So that's what that 10, 15 foot, 5, 10, 15 foot passes. It's really important to kind of support. That's what I'm talking about, support when you don't have the puck. So playing without the puck, right? This D has the puck, and it's like, as a centerman, you can make his life a lot easier by being a good support because you give him more options and more time to make that pass. Whereas if you go up the ice like this, he only has a split second to make a pass.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. A couple more. I just want to point out a couple things on that too. If you do that low and slow kind of thing where you're in that good passing lane, not only do you make everyone else's job easier, you also make your own job easier because when you get that puck, you'll have some speed first of all.
That's exactly
and
right.
You're giving yourself more time to make the next decision. So if you catch the pass by low circle or by the low hash mark in the circle, as opposed to the top of the circle, you're giving yourself an extra whatever it is, 15 feet, 20 feet before someone's going to be right in your face, because it's hard for their guys. If it's a clean breakout like that, it's hard for their guys to get that low to get on you. Right. So, and if they do, like you said, you already have speed and now you can kick out wide and just keep building speed. And now that defenseman will hit you in stride when you're already up ice. So there's a lot of benefits for that way, aside from just you might get killed and you're making everyone else's job easier. You're making your own life easier too, And sorry, one other thing I wanted to pass out.
That's fine.
Or one other thing I wanted to point out is you're talking about the passing, and people forget that passing takes two people, and you're really good at teaching this. It's not just the passer, it's the guy receiving the pass. You have to be a good option for that guy to get a clean pass to you. So if you're the guy that's like, oh, my D never passed to me, well, maybe it's you.
Yeah, maybe it's you.
Maybe it's them, but maybe it's you. Maybe you're not in a good spot. Maybe you're too far away. Maybe you're not showing stick. Maybe you're not giving a good target. Maybe you're standing still. There's a whole bunch of things as the receiver of the pass that could make me not want to pass to you. So you need to evaluate that as well. It's not just the passer's fault. So I just want to touch on those two things that you pointed out there.
Yeah. So and I'm glad you mentioned speed under the puck, because that's what actually my next phase was going to be, more neutral zone. So like that was your defensive zone. So now if we say there's a D to D pass, like at the neutral zone or in your own zone, D to D, let's say, okay. So this guy's got the puck. It's the same thing, right? So what happens, and I have to go over this with centermen quite often, is they like to go like this. They like to go like this. Whoops, that's an arrow the wrong way. He went in both directions at the same time, right? So remember, back to the plate. And then so if that puck goes like this, and you've done this curl, by the time you get that, if you're skating, that's a hard pass to make. So what we want to do is make sure that we make the pass options easy. So if I'm, and you can screw this up. So let's say D's got the puck and you're coming back and you know it's going to go D to D, or you don't. You're quarterbacking this anyway. So what I want to do is, instead of making a button hook like this or curling early like this when he gets here, that's not right.
You're kind of too far. Yeah.
You're cutting too far. So what you want to do is have the patience. So this guy's got the puck. The right D has the puck. And what you want to do is you want to angle it so that you're deep and you're almost underneath. So if this guy fires it across, you're underneath the puck. Now that's what we call speed under the puck. But look at how long this guy has to make how many options he has. Like as soon as you're coming across, it's that puck. If you're down here, he can lay a flat one for you, and you're in a crossover now, so you can have some like exceptional speed right off the hop, right? But more importantly, when that comes across, you've got options to, right? Your stick is in the lane, and you can get that pass at any point except for for the like split second if you choose to go wide. But then you can make that another option. So there's only like one very, very small period that you may not be a good pass option.
Yeah, sorry, let me tighten that up just a bit.
Sure.
Because what you're saying there is you're going to be a pass option for a long period of time.
Yes.
Because you're consistently in a good spot, as opposed to you do that button hook, they might be able to get it to you.
Let's say the button hook here.
Yeah, maybe when you're at the bottom of that hook, that's the only point when they can get it to you. Whereas if you do that good angle and you're facing them, that could be 2 full seconds where you're facing the guy, and that's 2 seconds that defenseman could pass to you.
Yeah.
So except for
if we go like this.
Yeah, except for the split second where you are crossing paths in front of him, you're available that entire time. So again, it goes back to what we just said about the breakout. It's like, not only are you making that D's job easier, you're making your own life easier, because now you're picking it up low, you're picking it up with speed, you're picking it up with space, and you have many points along which you can get it in that same position where you have good speed, good space, and options going forward.
Yeah. So now if it goes, and so the same thing, maybe the puck's not going to you, but you are creating yourself as a pass option. Okay. So let's say it goes here and you have a good angle here, right? You're a pass option. But let's just say there's a winger here. Let's even say he's stretched right close to the blue line.
Mm-hmm.
And this D says, oh my God, I can get this puck up to my winger. Okay, you don't cry, because you're actually in a really good position now, because now you have speed. So now this winger has an option, is seeing you with speed, to either lay it down, right, and you can get it. Maybe he carries it and you got good, right? Maybe he carries it and you got good speed going for a net drive, or you're, look at what a mess here, right? Or that winger, or as you're coming up the ice, he cuts and you're wide, or you're coming in kind of together and he can lay one in for you. But it just creates more
chip, dump in,
or
like
if he chips it in, you've got speed to go help him.
Stuff.
So it's like your offensive play actually started down here.
Yeah, from your regroup.
Yeah. Whereas, so this is why I want people to understand this. Centermen, forwards, at D, everybody understand this. Whereas if you try to play the offensive game and you're a little bit lazier coming back, or you're in a hurry to get back up the ice, if it's whatever transition, it goes D to D or whatever, the D has it, and you do one of these, well, there's a lot of mistakes that can happen. And if there's a turnover, now you're back checking, right? And the chances of you getting that pass from this area with let's say the O's or the defenders, right? However you want to put them. If you do this, now this guy's got to beat one or two guys to get that puck to you, if that's the option you want. So if you're skating around going, I never get the puck, just tighten up, getting lower and supporting. And I know it's counterintuitive, because we're taught as young ages, get the head man the puck, move the puck forward. And it's true, but it doesn't mean it have to be 3 zones. Honestly, 5, 10, 15 foot passes will beat long passes every day.
For sure. And even if you get that pass after you do the button hook, there's offsides, so you have to slow down anyways. So if you curl too early, even if they can get you that puck, now you're catching it either looking back or slowing down, as opposed to gaining speed or in full stride or whatever. If you just take the little bit longer route where you're putting yourself in a good position. And if you watch NHL games, even junior games, there's very, very few long passes, very few. It's unless they're doing a stretch to a winger, like you pointed out.
Yeah, there's a lot of stretch passes that you go and chip it in, right? So what that means is that this D might be coming up the ice, and you'll see wingers like this. And even though there's a D here and a D here, and there's another, like a forward here, it's just sometimes and very often that stretch pass where they just chip it in, so they have pressure going to get the puck. That's different.
Count the passes, man, when you watch a game. Like the amount of stretch to short passes, like the ratio is going to be off the charts in favor of the short ones.
But again, and this is what I was going to say too, is that let's just say, use that example. So a D stretches a pass out to a winger, and this is like typically higher level guys. So if I'm confusing anybody, say that never happens in our games. It's just that we're talking high level hockey. You got the D here. If this D makes that stretch pass, if you're the centerman that's high, with like playing high in the zone like this, and this stretch pass doesn't work, and it's blocked by, maybe the D steps in and knocks it up. Well, now you either have to do a big figure skate, or you do this, and if you're a really smart player, you're going to be able to stop and come back. But the problem is he's already
Now you're
gone.
chasing, yeah.
So if you, so this is what we're talking about. You'll just be around the puck more. So if this D was to make this stretch pass, and the centerman was like down low like this, and if there's any mistakes that happen, well, then now it's like, say this guy steps it out. Well, now it's like it's an angling drill.
You're already
That's all. It's all it
attacking,
is, an angling drill, right? So like you're in a better position. So that's what we're saying. Good defense makes good offense.
Yeah.
So it's
Great,
not it's not necessarily sexy, but it's critical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good stuff. Yeah. Do you want to do D side of the neutral zone, or do you want to go to O zone?
Real quick on the D zone, on the neutral zone.
Sure.
We talked about neutral zone before.
Yeah, it's the same, kind of the same as with the wingers, but maybe if you want to reiterate it.
It's the same thing. It is. It really is the same thing. It's just you're the quarterback now. It's going to depend on your system, but it's the same thing. Like, if you're the centerman and let's say it goes D to D and you come straight at him, then you're given an option to go either way.
Yep.
What you want to do if you're the first guy in is, again, just like your breakout, take away the center of the ice, stick in the lane. Who's got the puck? This guy?
Sure. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure people saw that.
Yeah.
You're the centerman, gets flipped over. D's got the puck here. If you go straight at him, no good. Too many options.
Yep.
So if you can cut the middle of the ice off, get your stick in the lane, and start steering him. And it's okay to get under him a little bit and force him, because if you don't, he might keep moving back. So get under him a little bit and have him moving this way so that you can force and you have other guys here.
Yeah.
It's pretty much it.
It's the same. Yeah. It's
Push
the same.
guys to the outside.
It's inside out. You mentioned the last one.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate too, because we talked about, now that we're get to the offensive zone, the positions dissolve as forwards, right? So now that once you're outside your D zone, outside the breakouts, and outside the regroups, but even on regroups, like a lot of times it can be a winger. Yeah, it's interchangeable. Yep. But now it's like it's forwards. It's not as much centerman here, right? So, you want to go to the O zone now to finish it, or what?
O zone's real simple. Yep. Like, okay, so the one thing I would say from a skill standpoint is if you are a centerman, you do have a puck and you're coming up the ice, is try to stay inside those dots the best you can, because you can make plays going both ways. Does that make sense? All right. So that's number one. And then, I don't like to say too much offensively, because sometimes you just need to play to learn that. And some guys are gifted and some guys aren't. But having said that, if you see guys that are open, even though you might be a star guy, a lot of times it's just a good play to make. Move the puck up instead of having guys standing still, and learn how to distribute the puck. And then offensive zone is actually, it's very simple. It's take the D zone and reverse it.
Yeah.
Right? Really. So a centerman. And now, again, what Eric said is 100% right. If you're the third guy, right, if there's a F1, your winger, and it happens to be another winger down here, well, because you're the centerman doesn't mean that you go, right? So now your defensive responsibility based on the systems, right? I don't need that line anymore. Based on the systems is learning. So if there's an F1 and an F2 battling for a puck down here, you just want to make yourself a good pass option or a defensive, responsible player. So staying in the slot area is not, if a puck comes loose, you're not necessarily in the best spot. So what you want to do is, depending on what your coach says and what system it is, you do want to be on the strong side. So the strong side just simply means cheating towards the side where the puck is on, and a little bit higher, unless, and this is, I'm not saying I'm right, or there's just some different systems. Some people want 3, and that's fine. But if you have no idea, if you don't have a clue, if you're acluistic, as I said before, you want to be a little bit higher so that if a puck squirts out, you are able to flush that out on the side. And then obviously, no matter what, the centerman probably, if you're the high guy and the puck switches over, this guy needs to bust his ass. Centerman or whoever needs to come and be the support guy. And this guy would come out on the strong side this way. And it's really that simple on the offensive zone. And then one of the things I was just going to say, like offensive play, and I don't know if I said it with when I was saying, I'm just going to switch ends because it's my right hand here. I don't think I said this enough, or I don't know if I said it when I was just talking about wingers, is a lot of times when you play, we try to make plays from here, carry the puck up the wall, try to make passes in this area, and it's all good. It's fine. But one of the things that is a real safe zone, and more than safe, it's a confusing place to play, is getting the pucks behind the net, getting behind the net play. Because what happens there, like if you don't really have a play, let's just say I have a puck and I don't have a play, and I'm going and I go nice and hard behind the net. All right. So what happens now is you got a defenseman here, you have someone chasing you here, and maybe possibly even a forward. But what happens, or the centerman, what happens here is that if this guy can bite, this guy can go, like, it just causes confusion. So by taking it to the net, people lose their assignments a lot, and you'll see a lot of plays get screwed up defensively from going behind the net. So I would say, and I mean, obviously Wayne Gretzky was the master at it, and he took it to a whole different level. But you'll see a lot of behind the net play, and it's like a major confusion for, especially for kids. So if you can learn how to be good at making plays behind the net, or coming and then like a tight turn and then coming back and then having a guy go down so you can cycle behind the net, that you create a ton of confusion.
Yeah.
So that's just something else that I would like to just say in general.
Yeah, and to go back to when we were talking about the defensive side, that's why that makes sense, right? Because we talked about the quadrant of the ice for the D, and the D's quadrant ends behind the net. That's where the switch happens, right? So you get to that, you're getting towards the edges. That's where things get tricky. And another play that is maybe equally confusing is when guys bring the puck up the wall and try to cut it through the middle at the hash mark, because the D doesn't know, do I stay with you or are you the wingers now? So
That's
if
very true.
Use that knowledge of defensive zone play, especially if you're playing against a team that understands D zone, because they're going to try to stick to their position. Obviously, they don't want to get running around. If you make plays around those edge areas, the edge area being behind the net where the D might have to switch, or by the hash marks where the D and the winger have to switch, those are the confusing areas, right? Because they don't know, do we switch? Do I stay? Do you go? And if they don't have good communication, or it's easy to get confused around those edges, right? So that totally makes sense.
So I mean, we could beat, like, we take all these positions, we could beat them to death. But what in this situation, that situation? But all I want to do is, like, again, we're not coaching, we're not trying to give instruction to the World Junior team here, right? I'm trying to make this, like, so a coach can look at this and say, okay, like, that quadrant thing seems to make sense. So now, as a coach, you can kind of think around that and say, okay, like, I can use that as a good framework, right? As a parent looking at their kid playing, is if they can kind of just make sense of that, so that when a winger, when a dad may be yelling, why don't you just, you're not getting the puck? Well, that's not necessarily my quadrant. Like, if you can maybe understand that little bit of framework, maybe you can relax a little bit and just watch the game, right? Because a lot of things go wrong if you don't play your position properly. And then for the player, it's like, okay, so if I can just understand, okay, my offensive zone or defensive zone, if I can just get to my house, that's a house, home plate, what do people call it? I never called it that when I was a kid. But it's good. But if I can get to that area when I don't know what I'm doing, and then push everything out, okay, that makes sense to me. So this is what this was all about. From a centerman, it's like, okay, understanding, supporting the puck, understanding patience in your zone. Like, sometimes you don't go. Sometimes you have to wait and just make sure someone else isn't going to get a puck, or you're in a good position to get a 5-10 foot pass. That's important stuff. And then, the D from the last series that we did is understanding dots out. I mean, I think that's a good framework for kids and parents and youth coaches. And some of them are smarter than me when it comes to X's and O's. Like, I'm not even joking. Some guys are really, really good at it, but sometimes it's also breaking it down so kids can understand it. And so I hope this helps. And the bottom line is, it's actually the framework for at every level. It's the base.
Yeah, that's the base.
It's the base. Everything comes from there. So I hope that little series we did of 3 was good. I hope it wasn't too basic. When I went and watched the first 2, I said, yeah, I think that really works for the average kid growing up, and it's a good foundation.
Teaching the boys how to deadlift. That's what we're doing right
now.
Yeah. It's a foundation.
Yeah. So I hope it helped. I hope it helped a lot. And we're going to get away from the X's and O's the next few, and we're going to get into some meaty stuff, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was good. So that's a wrap on the little mini series. I'm going to end with a quote that you picked today. You picked this quote. So this is from Luke. How do you say it? Would
Am I allowed to like explain it in any way, or do you
No.
want to just end it?
No, you can't explain it.
Okay, let me pre-explain.
Okay, keep it quick.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the bottom line is Eric and I do a lot of talking, right? We're like, that's one of the things I like about Eric is that I like to have I like to have intelligent conversations. I really do. And I like to be able to think that I can contribute to them, and I like to learn from people and stuff like that. So Eric and I can talk, and my good friends, we can talk about anything, and we can get very deep about stuff. So today we were just more or less talking about the changes that I've seen that I've made in my life. Like I want the world to be, not the world. That's not what I mean. I've been trying to be, actually trying to be a kind person. More kind, more tolerant, more patient, less judgy. Not that I was bad before, but I've just been more aware of it. So we're having that long conversation about that, and it's just better. Like if someone asks, there's a right winger on, let's say that on Guelph, there's a right winger that's better than my son, and if someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, that guy's a really good player," eh? It's like, as a hockey dad, as a good person, it should be, yes, he's a good player. And what I find in this hockey world, and kind of like in life in general, if it's not mine, then I don't want to be nice. So a lot of people say, yeah, he's okay. So I've been really aware of, and I was using that as just an example. So I've been really trying to, like, when people are negative or critical or whatever, I've just been trying to be nice and nicer and kinder and more tolerable and understand, and more humble, I guess is another word too. So we were talking this morning, and we were just saying about quotes because we're talking about different things. And on the one topic, and I just said, like, I feel like why this came up is I feel like a lot of people want the responsibility, right? I want to be the centerman. I want this. I want that. I want to play in the NHL. I want. But it's like, you want, but like, what are you going to do? Or what do you actually know what that means? So hence the quote.
Yeah. So I believe you would say it. Luke chapter 12 verse 48.
I just to qualify now, I'm not a Bible thumper.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No, but this here's,
but I've read that several times.
But just pause. Now you're going to get me going here. Okay? So pause. Whether or not you are religious, because I'm not religious in any way.
Right.
And neither are you. You probably even less than me.
Right.
But you're allowed to acknowledge things as being a good source of information.
Well, this is our deep conversation today. Exactly.
So whatever you think about the Bible, I don't particularly care. It doesn't matter. The fact is, there's good shit in the Bible, man. So it's fine. So the quote's from the Bible, and that's fine. If you don't like it, shut the podcast off then, man. Exactly. It's fine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it means nothing except it's a good quote.
Yeah. So here we go. It's also written in Shakespearean, so bear with me. And to whomsoever much is given, of him shall much be required. And to whom they commit much, of him they ask the more. Yeah. So
too much is given, much is expected.
Yeah, stick that in the pipe and smoke it for the rest of your day if you heard that. So we'll see you guys next week.